Hello and welcome to the Preparing for End of Financial Year webinar for 2016-17. My name's Richard and I'll be running today's webinar. I've been with ePayroll since 2012. I've got a background in payroll, super, customer service, and I've also worked at the Australian Tax Office, and this is my 5th end of financial year with ePayroll. So I hope you find the webinar informative. We will get started now. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, type them into the questions window. I will leave them until the end to answer them, but if you put them in there, I'll certainly have a look at the end of the webinar and answer anything which hasn't already been answered. Okay, in today's webinar, we will cover ordering your payment summaries, things you can do now, reportable employer super contributions, and our 8 tips for a smooth end of financial year. So getting started with ordering your payment summaries, here we'll start with looking at what your responsibilities are. So you need to ensure that your payment summaries reflect accurate and complete employer, employee and payment information. You need to enter any reportable fringe benefit amounts into ePayroll if you have any. You need to submit your payment summary order by the 7th of July. Now we will extend that until the 10th, so which is a Monday, because that short week until the 7th will make it hard for a lot of clients, but ideally if you can, we'd like your payment summary order by the 7th of July. You need to provide payment summaries to your employees by the 14th of July, and you must report payment summary data to the ATO by the 14th of August. We can help you fulfill these responsibilities. So on the 19th of June, the Payment Summaries tab became available on ePayroll. No doubt most of you have seen that menu item on the left-hand side. That menu item guides you through the 4 steps that are required to produce your payment summaries. Those 4 steps are: Step 1, review the PAYG Employer Details Report. Step 2 is to review the Employee Details Report. Step 3 is to enter any reportable fringe benefits and review the reconciliation reports, and Step 4 is to complete your online order, and we'll have a look at those steps in a little more detail. Okay, so we can, at Step 4 in the payment summary process, you can select for ePayroll to produce your payment summaries for you. That's what most of our clients do. You can, of course, produce them yourself if you want to. If we produce your payment summaries for you, we will produce your payment summaries electronically, so they'll be available online to any employee who has employee self-service access. We can also print and post the payment summaries directly to your employees if you'd like us to. There is an extra cost for that. As I said, your employees will be able to access their payment summary online, and we will also submit your payment summary data electronically to the ATO on your behalf. There are charges for the payment summary production, so electronic only is $2.95 per payment summary. If you want us to produce, to print those as well, then there's an extra $2.95 per payment summary, so the cost ends up being $5.90 per payment summary. If you do want to produce your own payment summaries manually, you'll need to distribute the payment summaries to your employees yourself, so they won't be available online. You'd need to produce them on paper, you'd need to post them out, potentially you would need to handwrite them. Your employees won't be able to access their payment summary on ePayroll. We won't charge you any payment summary production fees, but you will need to manage the lodgement of that data to the Australian Taxation Office yourself. And the ATO does have limited methods of lodging the payment summary data now. They do need to be lodged electronically. How early can you order your payment summaries? You need to wait until you've run your last payroll for the 2017 financial year before you make your order. So that's really important. Every year we do have some clients who put through their order a little too early, and we find that their payment summary, that they still have a payroll to process for this financial year. So it's important that you make sure that you don't have any more payrolls to run for this financial year, or you'll run the risk of your payment summaries being produced without that last payroll being included. and you may need to do payment summary amendments yourself. So your payment summaries will include any payrolls that have accounting dates between 1 July 2016 and 30th of June 2017 inclusive, and they should include any payments that are physically made between those dates. Just check your last payroll. If you've got a payroll that falls around the end of financial year, before you run that payroll, I should say, it does pay to check that the accounting date falls in the financial year that you want that payroll to be reported on for payment summaries, just to make sure that it is reported in the correct year. Don't order your payment summaries until you've checked and agree with the details in the reports at step 1, 2 and 3 of the payment summary process. That's really important. If any of the details are wrong when we produce the payment summaries, it can be difficult for those items to be fixed, and it can cause additional work. Regardless of whether we'll be producing your payment summaries or whether you'll be preparing them manually, you need to complete your payment summary order form by the 10th of July. Now, we ask you to complete that form even if you don't want us to produce payment summaries, because it does help us with our planning to make sure that everybody's payment summaries are produced and available as early as possible and before the 14th of July deadline. Things that you can do now. So even if you haven't done your last payroll for the year, you can do some things now to ensure a smooth end of financial year. You can check that your employer details are up to date, so the address of your employer, the payment summary signatory, your ABN shouldn't have changed, but if it has, you don't want to be finding that out at the last minute, because that can be a complex change. You also want to check that your employee details are correct, so names, addresses, date of births, tax file numbers. You need to make sure that they are all correct. You should also complete a year-to-date reconciliation to make sure that the numbers in the payroll system match what's been paid. Usually you would check that against your general ledger. Calculate any reportable fringe benefits amounts if you haven't already. When checking your employer details are up to date, you need to verify your employer name, your employer address, the phone and fax numbers. This information is all reported to the tax office. Employer ABN and payment summary signatory, as well as your industry code. All of that information goes to the ATO, so it's important that it's correct. Employer details can be easily verified using the PAYG Employer Details Report. That generates with every payroll right throughout the financial year, so you can check that at any time. Just as a reminder, go to Payroll on the menu on the left, select Paid Payrolls from the menu, make sure that the most recent payroll is selected in the drop-down, go down to the payroll files and click on the Payroll PAYG Employer Details Report. This is what that report looks like, so it will show you all the key information that's needed. We don't require a copy of this report to be sent to us, so it does say this is an important notice, please respond. For ePayroll clients, that's not necessary. Just review it and make sure that it's correct yourself. Some of that information can be updated on the employer home screen, such as the employer address, phone and fax numbers, and payment summary signatory. Email our support team if you require changes to the employer name, ABN, or industry code. And I'll just remind you that if the ABN has changed, that can be significant work to actually get that fixed. So that's something that you really need to let us know as soon as possible. You should check that the employee details are up to date, so the following details are crucial: employee name, tax file number, address, start date. Those can be checked easily, but we recommend that as a first step, get your employees to check their own details through employee self-service. That can save a lot of work for you. They can also update their address details themselves. If required, you should update the employee's name, tax file number. You would need to ask our support team to update the start date if required. Ask your employees now to log on to ePayroll, check the name and address details before you check the reports yourself. It'll save you a lot of time. The PAYG Employee Details Report does make it easy for you to check these yourself. So it can be accessed in a similar way to the PAYG Employer Details Report. The report's like this, so you can see the employee's name, their start date, their termination date, if they've terminated, their tax file number and their address. So all of that information's in one spot. Make sure the TFN details have been supplied. If you've got any employees who, when you put them into the system, they didn't have a tax file number yet, they'll probably have 1111111 as their tax file number. You need to add their tax file number if they've given it to you. If they haven't given it to you, then you need to change the TFN reason on their tax details screen. If you leave that as 1111111, the ATO will have trouble processing that, and that could delay the employee in preparing their tax return. Addresses need to be correct as those are reported to the ATO, and the ATO will update their records a lot of the time to reflect that address. So it'll be used by the ATO for contacting. Make sure the addresses don't contain any commas. They need to contain a state and postcode as well. After updating either the employer or employee details, regenerate the reports on your most recent payroll to make sure that the changes have taken effect. So go to Payroll Paid Payrolls, select the most recent payroll like I showed you earlier, and then click the Regenerate Reports button. It can take a few minutes for updated reports to appear, but they will appear. Completing a year-to-date reconciliation. A part of the year-end processing, you need to reconcile your payment summary figures to your month-end payroll summary report, your general ledger, and by reconciling these now, you can verify that there's no issues so far this financial year. And unless something happens between now and the 30th of June, something unusual, you can be fairly confident that you won't run into any problems when you are ordering your payment summaries. It also means that there's a little more time to fix any issues rather than trying to rush through them at the end of year when there's no doubt lots of pressure in your business as well as with the workload for us. We've prepared a handy spreadsheet that helps to reconcile your payment summary reconciliation report with your month-end payroll summary report. So don't forget that payment summary reconciliation report is available at the at step 3 of the payment summary process, and you can go through to step 3 to get that report and have a look at it. Now you can still go back to step 1 and 2 later on to go through the process at the end. So this spreadsheet just asks you to enter any items that aren't included in gross pay on the payment summaries, asks you to enter in the tax, any other items, and it will actually turn red down here if those items don't balance. So that can be helpful. We will make a copy of this reconciliation spreadsheet available through our online help centre, probably tomorrow, along with a recording of this webinar. Okay, we'll talk quickly about fringe benefits. So a fringe benefit is a benefit either you or an associate, such as your spouse or children, receive because of your employment, and this is looking at it from an employee's perspective. It doesn't matter whether you're a current, former or future employee. A benefit can be the use of something such as a car, house or equipment, ownership of something such as items of clothing, enjoyment of a privilege or facility such as staying at a holiday home. Some benefits are exempt from fringe benefits tax though, so an exemption applies to benefits such as a portable electronic device, for example a phone, an item of computer software, an item of protective clothing, a briefcase, a tool of the trade, provided that the items are mainly for work-related use and only one item per FBT year for a mostly identical function is claimed, unless the item is a replacement. So an employee, for example, couldn't have 2 mobile phones unless one of those phones was a replacement for the previous one. As an employer, you have to record the value of fringe benefits that are provided to each of your employees, and if the value of those fringe benefits exceeds $2,000 in a fringe benefits tax year, you'll be required to record the grossed up taxable value of those benefits on your employee's payment summary. You may also have to report the notional value of certain exempt benefits. The reportable fringe benefits amount on an employee's payment summary, as I said, needs to be grossed up. The grossed up amount is calculated as the individual fringe benefits amount divided by 1 minus the FBT rate. The FBT rate for this financial year is 49%. Next financial year it will, sorry, I shouldn't say financial year. The FBT rate for the FBT year, which runs from 1 April to 31 March 2017, is 49%. The rate for 1 April 2017 to 31 March 2018 is 47%. So the calculation works out to be the employee's individual fringe benefits amount divided by 0.51. So as an example, if an employee's fringe benefits totaled $5,000 during the FBT year, the grossed up amount is calculated as $5,000 divided by 0.51, and the grossed up reportable fringe benefit amount that would be reported on the payment summary is therefore $9,803. Now that amount is entered into ePayroll during the payment summary ordering process at step 3. Let's talk about reportable employer superannuation contributions. This is one item that we do get a lot of questions about each year. Reportable employer super contributions are those contributions that you make for an employee where all of the following apply. Your employee influenced the amount or rate of super that was contributed. The contributions are additional to the compulsory contributions that you must make under any of the following. Super guarantee law, so that's the 9.5%, an industrial agreement, the trust deed or governing rules of a super fund, or a federal, state or territory law. So just to clarify, some items which aren't reportable employer super are all super guarantee contributions. Compulsory super contributions are required by the governing rules of a super fund or required by an Australian government, state or territory law. Employer super contributions are made under a collectively negotiated industrial agreement. The total amount of reportable employer super must be included on an employee's payment summary. That amount's used by employees on their tax return and may impact their eligibility for some tax items. Provided that your employee salary sacrifice items have been set up correctly within ePayroll, reportable employer super amounts will automatically be included on your employees' payment summaries. It'll also show up on the payment summary reconciliation report, which is why it's critical that you do check that report at step 3 of the payment summary process. Okay, now we'll look at our 8 tips for a smooth end of financial year. So tip number 1 is start preparing and planning now. In fact, you possibly should have already started preparing and planning. Planning now will help avoid any last-minute issues that could affect your ability to meet your legal obligations, and that's really what this process is all about. It's us helping you and you helping yourself to make sure that you meet those legal obligations. It'll also help reduce your workload and the amount of stress that you'll experience over such a busy period. Educate your stakeholders, so particularly in larger businesses, it's not just one person who's looking after end of financial year. You may need to involve your accountants. There may be multiple people or departments in the business that contribute. So as a payroll administrator, you know you'll be busy over end of financial year, but other stakeholders might not be aware of the work that you need to put in or the deadlines that you're legally obliged to meet. Let other departments and stakeholders know that you'll be doing extra work during the end of financial year period, and use that to help better plan and prepare critical and non-critical tasks, so let them know that non-urgent work maybe doesn't need to be done during that period and ask them to give you a bit of leeway. If you require any other departments to be involved in your processes, establish clear deadlines with them and requirements around what you need, when you need it, what format, etc. And don't forget to let your employees know that they should receive their payment summaries by 14th of July. We constantly get feedback from clients that employees expect, or they always get a handful of employees that expect their payment summary on the 1st of July, and for most clients that's not practical, so make sure employees know that you will get their payment summaries to them as early as possible, but that you do have until the 14th of July to give it to them. Don't order your payment summaries too early, and we did talk about this earlier, and I can't stress it enough. We aim to produce your payment summaries as soon as we receive your order. That means that all payments must be in ePayroll and be correct at the time you make your order. We won't be able to reverse your payment summaries after they've been produced, so note that you'll need to complete manual amendments and submit them to the ATO if there's any errors on your payment summaries. Tip number 4, avoid rushing through the process. The payment summary ordering process is simple, it's easy to follow, and there's basic instructions on each step and information to help you along the way, but it's important to read through those instructions carefully. We do make improvements to the ordering process and some changes every year, so last year's process may differ slightly. There may be a different price, there may be a different item that you need to check, or some suggestions in there. So even if this is your 10th financial year with us, go through that process carefully. Check the reports thoroughly. So we do provide you with several reports in the payment summary ordering process. We provide you with the PAYG employer details report, the PAYG employee details report. We give you the payment summary reconciliation report, which basically shows you the figures that will show on a payment summary for each employee. We also give you an ETP reconciliation report. Check those reports thoroughly. Make sure they're balanced to what you actually pay, and make sure you do that before you order your payment summaries. By ensuring that these figures are correct to reduce the likelihood of any problems or delays in the preparation of your payment summaries. You'll also reduce the risk that you'll need to do any amendments yourself later on. Reconcile your reports. So we did discuss this earlier as well. Your month-end payroll summary report for June 2017 will show the total payments for each pay code for the entire year. You should reconcile those figures back to your payment summary reconciliation report as well as to your general ledger, and it's important that you check that those reconcile, because if they don't reconcile, it will delay your payment summary order. Don't order your payment summaries too late. It takes us time to produce your payment summaries. We do a number of checks on our end to help make sure that your payment summaries are accurate and compliant. If there are any issues reconciling, or if we experience other issues when preparing your payment summaries, it will slow the process down. We'll also produce payment summaries for over 95% of our clients, so leaving your payment summary order till the last minute will also increase the time that it takes. So naturally, the earlier the orders come in, the quicker we're able to process them. There will always be some clients who can't order for various reasons until close to that cut-off date of the 10th of July for us receiving the order, and we will get an increase in the orders that we receive at that time. So the orders received around or near to that cut-off date will take a little longer than the earlier ones. Help us to help you is tip number 8. So over end of financial year period, particularly from 25th of June through to 15th of July, although we're already seeing an increase this year, we'll experience a significant increase in workload. Our priority over this period is the preparation of payment summaries. It has to be, because of the legal obligations that are around that for our clients. If you've got non-urgent support requests that can wait until after this period, then please wait until 15th of July to contact us about them. Of course, if there's anything, to do with a payroll, if something doesn't look right, if you need a rollback, a new pay code, we're happy to help. We're here to help, and we'll be available. But for non-urgent requests, please try to hold off on those until after the 15th of July. One other tip, you can help us to focus on our payment summaries by letting your employees know that the support team aren't able to assist them with their payment summary inquiries. So we do, every financial year, we do get bogged down with inquiries from employees asking us where their payment summary is, when they can expect to access it. A lot of the time we get those inquiries before a client has even processed their order, so we have no visibility whatsoever on that. So it's really important that you help us out by letting your employees know that we can't help them with their inquiries, and that'll help us get all clients' payment summaries processed as quickly as possible. Early super, so any clients who we pay super for would have received an email about the June month or quarter super being paid early. If you'd like to, if we pay your super for you and you'd like to claim your employer super contributions as a company tax deduction in this financial year, the super funds need to receive that money by the 30th of June 2017. You need to let us know by tomorrow is the cutoff, so I would let us know today if you haven't already that you want us to pay your super early. That notification needs to go to super@aussiepay.com.au and you'll need to complete your last payroll for the year by the midday on Thursday 22nd of June if we pay your client your super via direct debit, or midday on the 27th of June if you have a TNA or TAC, which we use to pay your super. A quick note on single touch payroll. Single touch payroll is a major development in the Australian regulatory landscape, and we can assure you, our clients, that we'll be at the forefront of the single touch payroll changes. We have been involved with the ATO and their working groups. We are already working on our single touch payroll integration. Single touch payroll, for those that aren't familiar, and I would expect most of you should be getting our newsletters and would be somewhat familiar with it, but single touch payroll is just a mechanism that's being introduced where data is reported to the ATO with every payroll with regards to information about TFN declarations, payments that have been made to employees. So we are there, we're working on it, we're ready to go, and we're also working closely with the ATO on that implementation. For any clients who aren't aware, we do offer personalised training, and we do need to, I guess, let people know about this every so often, because clients do change over staff, they do their own training internally, but we can also help you with training. If you do want to have some training, we have added a paid training link to our online help centre where you can request some training. Some topics which we typically provide training on are leave management, terminations, GL integration, payment group management and pay codes, but we can customise that training to your needs. For those of you who haven't seen, a couple of weeks ago we did launch our new help centre. We'll help you to find out what you need quicker and more easily than our previous help centre. We've got a quick search bar there. We've got our dedicated end of financial year topics. We've got our training links. We've made it easier than ever to get the most out of ePayroll. We'll also be adding some videos in the new financial year, and we would love your feedback on any topics that you think could be added that aren't there. I will quickly show you our online help. So this is our online help centre. So you can see there we've got a range of topics which have all been reviewed and rewritten from the old online help. We've also added in some additional topics. Within each topic you can provide feedback on that topic, and I would encourage you to do so using these Was This Helpful widgets. If something's really good, let us know with the smiley face. That'll let us know that that topic's okay in your opinion, and we can use that to try and replicate some of what's in that help topic. If you're not happy with the topic or it was okay but could be improved, you can either click the sad face or the average face, put in some notes about what you think's missing, what could be improved, and then click send feedback. That feedback comes straight to me. It also comes through to our central mailbox, and we are acting on all of that feedback that we're receiving. For paid training, you can just complete this form here, which talks about the paid training and what's on offer. So please keep an eye on that, and keep an eye out for a copy of this recording after the webinar is completed. Okay, so that's all that we wanted to cover in today's training session on end of financial year processing. So I'll have a look at the questions window. If anybody's got any questions that haven't been answered, that they haven't typed in yet, type them in. I can see that there are some questions there already. Okay, so I'll start looking at that. So I've got a question there, and by the way, if there is anything that specifically relates to your business or your employees in your question, I may try and anonymize that so that I'm not giving away any personal or private information. I've got one question who's asked if they can have a handout for today's presentation. Certainly can. That'll go up into our online help centre. Probably tomorrow, as I said, depending on how quickly we can get the recording converted, but we'll have the recording there. We'll have the reconciliation spreadsheet, and I'll also put up a copy of the slides into the online help centre. So yeah, we can certainly do that. I've got a question there. Do I hit true or false when running the payment summary? So I'm not sure what true or false means. Now that may be the last step. There's a yes or no to ordering payment summaries. So it may be that. I will, if you can, Belinda, if you can just add in something else just to clarify what you're asking, I'd be happy to answer that for you. Okay, I've got another question here. If I process and pay June salary on 30th of June, would it go into the 16-17 financial year? If you make the payment on the 30th of June, then yes, you would do it on the 16-17 year, so you need to make sure the accounting date of that payroll is also the 30th of June. Will there be any tax rate changes from the 1st of July is the next question. So yes, we will, we've already reviewed the tax rate changes for this year. I have to be honest, I haven't gotten completely across those yet, but I'm expecting them to come across my desk a little later on this week. I believe most of the changes are related to thresholds rather than rate changes at this stage. We will update those for you in the system automatically. We'll also let you know via email once those updates have been done. If there's anything significant, Shirani, I'll try to organise for an email to go out to let clients know of what those changes are. Okay, the next question that I've got is, does ePayroll satisfy the ATO's requirement that working holiday makers get two separate payment summaries, one for up to 31 December and another for 1 January onwards? And following on from that, for working holiday makers, earlier in the year you didn't have the option to select, so okay. All right, so the way that that was, but let's step back a bit. The way that the backpacker tax was announced and implemented by the government meant that there wasn't a lot of time for any payroll provider to implement a proper solution for that. So the early immediate solution to that was for clients to use the tax override functionality, or the variation functionality I should say, to add in a 15% tax variation for those employees. We've implemented a fix as part of, or a process within ePayroll, that any employees who have been flagged as a backpacker in their tax details will automatically have two payment summaries issued, one for the earnings prior to 31 December and another one from 1 January onwards. So yes, we do accommodate that, and it doesn't matter that the initial 15% variation was used to flag those employees' tax rates. If you do have backpackers, you need to be registered with the ATO for the backpacker tax. You also then need to let us know so that we can enable that functionality on your account. That will make the flag available in the employee's tax details to flag that they're a working holiday maker. You need to make sure that you add that flag, or that you select yes to that flag for backpackers before running payment summaries to make sure that they get two. Now hopefully that answered the questions about backpacker tax, because I can see that there's quite a few. So if there's any follow-on questions about the backpacker tax, feel free to add them into the comments and I'll get to them. There's quite a few questions here that I've got, so we'll keep going. Where do we enter the reportable FBT amounts for payment summaries? Thanks for the question, Ravi. So that happens at step 3 of the payment summary ordering process. So in our online help centre, we do have a topic called ordering payment summaries. If I jump straight to step 3, you can see here, okay, sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. Okay, so I will go back. So on our help centre, we have a topic in the year-end section called ordering payment summaries. If I go to step 3, payment summary details, this gives me a screenshot of what that screen looks like. So that screen shows a list of your employees where you can enter their reportable fringe benefits amount. So you'll just click edit next to the employee that you need to add a fringe benefit amount for. That'll open up a field here. You'll type in their fringe benefit amount and click update. Further down that screen, you'll be able to download the reconciliation report, and you should expect to see those fringe benefits amounts on that reconciliation report when you download it. And so that's at step 3. So you've got 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the ordering, and step 3 is where you enter the reportable fringe benefit amount. There's also some instructions there for how to enter the reportable fringe benefits. Okay, so we've now got a question, what should I do if I haven't received POIG payment summary statement from the ATO, and the NAT number for that document, the ATO identifier has been given there. So when we lodge the payment summaries for you, we do that electronically, and that removes the need for you to lodge a POIG payment summary statement, which is effectively just a summary of the total payments that have appeared on payment summaries for you. So you can ignore that report. If you are asking us to do your payment summaries, we will lodge the required data on your behalf. Okay, we've got another question here which I think is specific to this particular employer. So the question is, we've done some payment summaries on paper because some employees stopped working for the client mid-year and were leaving the country. So the client has done those on paper, provided those to the employees. The client wants to know whether they can generate most of their payment summaries with ePayroll but deselect those that have already been done manually. Unfortunately, that's not possible. So it's either all or none with regard to the payment summaries. I wonder whether, if you haven't lodged those paper payment summaries with the ATO, then the information should match with what we produce on the payment summaries, in which case it should be okay to do the electronic one as well. Just for future reference, you might need to get in touch with us individually to go through the detail of that, Amy, contact our support team, let us know the detail. In terms of for future reference, you can generate an interim payment summary through the reporting online. So there's a payment summary report under the on-demand reporting. This is useful for issuing payment summaries partway through the year. You should still check the details because these reports obviously don't go through the same rigor that we go through when producing and working through the payment summary ordering process at the end of the year. But you can select a financial year here, select an employee and run a report, and that'll generate an interim payment summary that you can issue to the employee that they can use when they're leaving the country. So keep that in mind for next year, Amy. As far as for this year's payment summaries, get in touch with us, let us go through the detail and let's see if we can work something out. Okay, we've got a question from Helen. So if one of our employees has salary sacrifice into super but it already comes up on their payslip, then I don't need to rectify this anywhere else. I'm assuming that you're talking with regards to that super being reportable employer super. It's not so much whether that super shows up on the payslip that you need to be concerned about. What you need to be concerned about is whether that salary sacrifice to super has been ticked as reportable employer super on the salary packaging screen for that employee. So you need to go to the salary packaging for that employee, have a look at the way the salary packaging is set up and check that that reportable employer super contribution tick box is ticked. And if it's incorrectly ticked or unticked, depending on the circumstances around whether that is reportable employer super or not, you may need to get in touch with us to help you fix that so that it shows on the payment summaries correctly. And you should also double check, regardless, you should double check the POIG payment summary reconciliation report at step 3 of the ordering process to make sure that it's showing what you expect. We've got a question there around ANZIC code. So we'll just have a quick look. That's in our system as principal activity. So if I go to employer home and then employer, the principal activity field there has got TBA, which is the default for new clients who've signed up. That needs to be changed to what your ANZIC code is for your business. The next question is what will happen to employers who are not depositing super fund before June 30th. That's up to you as an employer whether or not you do that. It basically means that you as an employer can't make a deduction for those super contributions in the current financial year. You will have to wait until next financial year to do that. You also need to consider, I guess, how employees are going with their threshold limits in terms of super contributions. So some employees may have planned their super to take the best advantage of the taxes on the contributions that they make into super, which is kind of separate from payroll, so we don't have much visibility on that sort of stuff, but it could also impact them. So I'm not sure whether this question was asked before I talked about payment summary statements before or after. So the question is, does ePayroll do a payment summary statement? If so, is there a way we can get the payment summaries done by ePayroll but the payment summary statement done manually because we have some paper forms for prior to using ePayroll? Okay, so from that I understand that this is a new client that's joined us during the financial year. You can add year-to-date details into ePayroll for any employees that have joined during the current financial year. So those year-to-date details form a starting point for gross pay, tax and super, etc. And by doing that, those details then are then included on those employees' payment summaries. So one way, and the way that I recommend doing is to add those the data from before you used ePayroll into the year-to-date details for those employees so that they can be included on the employees' payment summaries. That'll save you doing two payment summaries. In terms of the payment summary statement, when we lodge electronically, it's not a payment summary statement form as such that's lodged. The ATO from the data that's lodged. And on the back of the payment summary reports that you'll get, the employer copy, there's a summary of the total figures that have been lodged for the payment summaries. That's effectively your copy of the payment summary statement, because there isn't a payment summary statement as such when you lodge electronically. The next question is, are terminated employees getting payment summaries via email, or company need to send manually if they use option online only? Terminated employees retain access to the system if they had access beforehand. So as long as employees haven't locked, as long as terminated employees haven't locked their account, they'll still be able to log in and they'll be able to get their payment summary electronically online. For employees who left, because passwords do expire within the system, and generally when an employee leaves, we recommend that you change the email address to an employee's personal email address so that they can still reset their password and things like that. And just before end of financial year, we actually recommend going in and resetting the passwords for our for their clients that are terminated, their employees, sorry, that are terminated. We recommend that our clients go in and reissue passwords so that they don't get the inquiries at end of financial year themselves to have to go in and unlock them one by one. It allows the clients, or you as a client, to be a little more proactive in that respect. Okay, the next question is, does the principal activity in the employer details drive the ANZIC code? Is there any change to ANZIC codes from last year? I'm not sure if there's been changes to ANZIC codes or when they've last been updated, but yeah, the principal activity is where you should enter in your ANZIC code. Thanks, Belinda, for clarifying that all salary sacrificed to super is considered reportable employer super contributions. Trish has asked whether the standard 9.5% super contributions is reportable. No, super guarantee contributions are not reportable employer super. Khan's asked, can we enter an overseas address for an employee that has left and have the certificate sent there if ePayroll are producing them? Yeah, you certainly can. There's two critical things in terms of an employee with an overseas address. The first critical thing, and this is a requirement in terms of the ATO and their addresses, the first critical thing is that when you enter their address, the country field needs to obviously be the country where that employee's address now is. So it might be United Kingdom, might be New Zealand, United States, whatever it might be. The second part of that is that the state for their address needs to be OTH, and that's available in the state drop down there. And the postcode needs to be 9999. Otherwise, you'll run into issues when that gets lodged, or will run into issues lodging that with the ATO. Okay, so the next question is, I need to change the branch number on our ABN. It's showing 001. Is this an easy fix? It should actually be 003. So it is a somewhat easy fix in most scenarios. So by default, most businesses have a branch number of 001. So from the ATO's perspective, an employer can report separately under under a single ABN. So under a single ABN, you could be doing 2 activity statements, 3 activity statements, 4 activity statements, and each of those is under a different branch of the same ABN. So most businesses will only have that one branch of 001 unless they've asked for extra branches or they've gone through a period where they've gone into administration and come out or something like that. So by default our system will show 001. If you need that change, you need to go on, get in contact with our support team. I'd suggest emailing us. The 00, let us know that it needs to be 003. I'll also get you to include a little bit of background on that. So if your business has always been 003 and you've joined during the year, so I presume that you haven't changed that code midway through the year, it should be a fairly easy fix. So just include a bit of background on that sort of thing. That'll help us get it updated and do it quickly to avoid having to ask questions. Okay, I've got a question from Michelle. 2 employees who have left do not have access to ePayroll anymore. How do they get a copy of their payment summaries? So there's a couple of options there. You can reinstate their access online, send them a new password, and they can log on and get their electronic payment summary that way. That's the first option. The second option is you can ask us to do the payment summary postage for you. If you ask us to do the payment summary postage, we can't just do it for those 2 employees. It's got to be for all of your employees. But we can print those. We can post them. When we post them, they do go on secure paper. So it's stuck together in the Z fold. It's sealed. They have to tear it to open it. But we can do that, but we have to do it for all of your employees. The third option is if you really want to do it for just those 2 employees, we can produce the payment summaries electronically. You as an administrator can then download their payment summary, their individual payment summaries as a PDF, or you don't even need to download it. You can print those individual employees' payment summaries and you can then post them manually yourself by handwriting on an envelope. It will take you a little more time that way, but that's up to you. I wouldn't recommend emailing a PDF of the payment summary for privacy reasons. It does have the employee's tax file number on it. It does have their address. It does have their name, and you don't want to risk any potential identity theft for that employee. Email is often a insecure method of sending data, so I would recommend mailing that rather than sending it via email. Does anybody have any other questions? That is the last question that we had in the list there. I mean, there haven't been any questions for a few minutes, so we will assume that there are no more. I'll hang around for another 5 minutes just in case anybody is still typing a question. If you have any questions yourself, by all means type them in. If you've got none, then I'd like to thank you for attending. I hope it was informative. If you do have any questions, then by all means have a look at our online help centre. There's a lot of information there about end of financial year, including some frequently asked questions, key dates, employer obligations. There's information there about updating the details on your employer record, details on how to update employees. So go and have a look at that there. If you're still struggling, by all means get in touch with us and we'll answer the question. And just a reminder that we'll try and put up a recording of this webinar, as well as some copies of the slides and that reconciliation into our online help centre over the next day or so. One other question that's just come through: our owner of the business has not taken a salary this year. We've just made him an inactive employee. Will a payment summary be produced for him? If he's got no payments this financial year, no reportable employer super, no reportable fringe benefit amounts, then the system won't produce a payment summary. I would suggest that if Marie, that you just go onto that that payment summary ordering screen, jump to step 3, have a look at the payment summary reconciliation report, check whether he's on there or her. If they are not on there, then they won't get a payment summary. If they are on there, then there's an amount, and you'll need to go back through the pays this year and figure out where he's been paid that amount and whether in fact it has actually been paid.